Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for women to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.
My name is Jafrica Haiti, and I greet you from Ottawa, Gatineau, the capital of Canada, and from where we present this weekly program to you, which deals with the relationship that people of African descent entertain with Judeo-Christianity. Tonight, as we usually do, we have a set of slide presentations and brief excerpts from a video, and we hope that 1 hour, as we usually take, will be sufficient to cover what we have in store for you today. So the title for today's presentation is Jesus, Tarzan, Erik Prince, and Donald Trump. Subtitle, Project 2025 Global Targets, Venezuela, Haiti, Palestine, Africa. And so we will go over the slides that focus on 3 segments. We will discuss Project 2025 going global, very briefly in those countries that we mentioned and territories, the African continent. And then the second part, Evil Erik, a racist prince in Port-au-Prince. We will discuss the particular case of this white mercenary and what he is saying about his desires and the presence of his mercenaries in Haiti as we speak. And the third segment is a statement from an organization with which I work in Canada named Solidarité Québec-Haiti, which calls for global resistance against white supremacist, imperialist warlords of the kind we are about to speak about. Of course, if you go on our website, jafricahaiti.com, you will see all of the previous episodes, and we will post this one episode as early as tomorrow. And of course, you are able to see that how we discussed the topic of God, our understanding of Judeo-Christianity in the list of belief systems that exist in the world today, and how we became acquainted with it, and our understanding of the distinction between this entity or creator God and the religion that human beings created, and how people of African descent in particular, and other people, of course, have tried to make this belief system make sense for their own um, lives and for their own um, situations. And so we invite you to take a look at the list of topics and to consider watching the previous episodes either on YouTube or directly from the website jafricahaiti.com. When you go there, you can see there is a button called God is Not White, and you can go there. And if you type on Google godisnotwhite.com, you will actually get to the same website, jafricahaiti.com. All right. And so let us proceed because we have quite a bit to cover today. Project 2025. Some of you who are following the news have heard the term, but here, what we really want to attract your attention to is the fact that Project 2025 is very much linked to what we had discussed a few weeks ago, the influence that white Christian nationalists have on the current US administration, the Donald Trump regime. And it is not negligible at all. Now, Project 2025, if you do a little bit of research, you will see that this is not something new. This has been in place by conservatives for a number of years. The Heritage Foundation, that conservative think tank which penned the thing, has been looking at these items that they consider priority for them for several administrations ago. All right. Of course, now that they have the leader that they've been looking for, they're looking for implementation of some of these policies. And so tonight, we're going to be talking about one particular aspect of Project 2025 having to do with racist foreign policy and immigration policy. But there are many other things, of course, that are part of Project 2025. And if we take just one quote here from this article titled, Who is Project 2025 co-author Russell Vaux? I don't know if I pronounce his name right. It's probably Russell Vaught. I don't know if you pronounce the T or not. Um, Four main policy aims that they attribute to Project 2025 include restore the family as the centerpiece of American life, dismantle the administrative state, defend the nation's sovereignty and borders. And this is what we will focus on today. And the fourth one, secure God given individual rights to live freely. Of course, you will see in the language of Project 2025 that white Christian nationalists are at the heart of the thing, and co author Russell Vaught is self described as a Christian nationalist, and he is said to have written a key chapter in the document and was confirmed by the Senate in the US to lead the Office of Budget Management, which administers the $6.75 million trillion federal budget. Yeah, you know the big beautiful budget. Okay, so Russell Vought is called the chief architect of Project 2025. Its intellectual inspiration, according to U.S. Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer. You are encouraged to check out this article that has a number of uh, interesting topics about or revelations or discussions of what is in Project 2025. Regardless, whichever way you look at it, white supremacist ideology and its religious component are very much part of that. And as we saw in episode 30 a couple of weeks ago, when we discussed white Christian nationalism and ICE being real threats, as opposed to Haitians who are being accused of eating the cats and the dogs. Okay, uh, white Christian nationalism and ICE being real threats to peace and democracy in the United States. In that segment, which I encourage you to check out on our website, we said that Christian nationalism, okay, blurs the distinctions between Christian identity and American identity, rendering non-whites and non-Christians not merely outsiders, but threats to the United States. And this is a theme you will see come again and again as people around the world start to discover what we are dealing with here. It is not a Trump phenomenon. This is something that was thought out and that is being implemented, and it's actually a very old virus that has been plaguing our world for a number of years now. And so, again, to put in context what is happening in the United States, you cannot isolate it to the United States. When you talk about white Christian nationalism, this is not a US phenomenon. This is a global phenomenon, and it's not even from our generation. It is much older than that. However, in contemporary times, you can see in Europe some statements that were made by Joseph Borrell, the European Union chief of foreign affairs and security policy. You know, it could have been Trump who said that. His racist gardener quote is something that activists around the world are well aware of. And I'm pretty sure his peers in the European Union know that he made those statements. And in fact, that's why they put him there as the gardener. And he describes themselves, you know, the Europeans as the gardeners that need to protect, do everything in their power to protect their beautiful garden, which is Europe. Okay, so just as Trump is doing in the United States, there are white Europeans who consider it their duty to do the same in beautiful garden Europe. And, you know, he says that to protect Europe effectively, they cannot satisfy themselves to play defense. Okay, and this is the quote: the gardeners have to go to the jungle. Europeans have to be much more engaged with the rest of the world. Otherwise, the rest of the world will invade us by different ways and means. End of quote. Okay, so you have to be very careful not to fall for the fallacy or the misconception that Project 2025, or you know, the garden analogy that Joseph Bowell is articulating, is about being protective of one's territory when they're talking about immigration. No, they have a plan to be on the attack, and they are implementing it, and they've been implementing it. All right. And so, as you can see in that article that I'm referencing here, they tell you that Donald Trump's actual positioning in terms of immigration policy went further than what was actually written in Project 2025. In other words, we have to be very aware that it will get much worse if we allow it as a global community to happen in this manner. Donald Trump's administration promises to go potentially much further than the Project 2025 proposals. And of course, we've seen the racist raids that ICE has conducted, picking up black and brown people, the times that their ancestors used to throw lasso after escaped African enslaved on their plantations. That's the kind of world in which we live. So, Project 2025 goes global, targeting Africa. Yes, because Africa is the richest continent on planet Earth. Haiti, Palestine, Venezuela, these are just examples that illustrate the fact that the um, racist ideology that the Americans are experiencing in their country is not limited to the territory of the United States of North America. And an example is that although the administrations in the US always had black bureaucrats, black military men and women who served in as an imperialistic, as a barbaric system as their white counterparts. The Trump administration doesn't want to take any chances. So even when they have a very subservient black member of the US administration, they try as much as possible to remove them. And of course, they dress this whole thing as a movement against wokeism and against diversity, inclusion, and equity. Like this whole movement, this is considered white liberal stuff, and so now we are the conservatives, make America great again. But in reality, this is a project that is embraced by America, because Donald Trump did not steal the election. It's not the Chinese or the Ethiopians who put him in the White House. It's white Americans who put him in the White House to do what they want him to do and what he is doing. And so they removed, for instance, that black general who was threatening the president of Burkina Faso because, they don't like the fact that this president is using the gold of Burkina Faso for the people of Burkina Faso, as opposed to letting the whites come and, serve themselves. Well, Michael Lenley did everything that he could um, to be a good slave boy to the US administration, yet Donald Trump fired his ass. And he's been replaced by a properly white member of the US administration, an Air Force general. His name is Dagvin Anderson. And here's a quote here by Dagvin Anderson to give you a sense of what his concept is as he takes over AFRICOM, which is the US military in Africa. Okay, something that is completely illogical, but unfortunately, many African administrations had allowed such nonsense to happen on the continent. And so here's the quote from Dagvin Anderson. I believe that the Russian influence and information operations were critical in turning populations against the French in the Sahel, the Sahel region. Okay. I think it is very much not in our interest what the Russians are doing in the information domain. In other words, these white people are talking about each other as if the Africans don't exist, as if it's not the territory of the Africans. You know, it's about them in their competition with Russia and China, and therefore they don't like the way, um, the Russians are talking or the Chinese are talking about what's happening on the African continent. They are there to set the record straight and tell people what they need to know about what's happening in the world. So he's talking about mainstream media, and that's why you see all of this effort to control information. But what is the end game? I encourage you also to check out this article, 10 Things to Know About Trump's African Chief Dagvin Anderson, because I think this is very important. Like I said, Africa is absolutely the coveted territory because it's rich in everything. But look what happened to Palestine, right? If you're following this program, you're probably familiar with this graph that you've seen all over for a number of years now. The green part is what used to be Palestine, and it's been taken over by the whites. And indeed, white Europeans who call themselves Israelis, who come up with a made up story about their ancestors having been there forever, absolute nonsense that has nothing in historical fact. But they manage as a gang to take over that territory. And now the Palestinians are basically hanging on to small pieces of territory. And the gang that has achieved this has the same views of what needs to happen to Africa and much of Latin America. And you will hear it from their own mouths in a few minutes. Indeed, from evil Erik, the racist prince in Port-au-Prince. This man is simply too much. Now, you will see that I post this slide with a screenshot of evil Erik doing that interview with this news item about what's happening this week in the Caribbean Sea against Venezuela. Venezuela, which is a country that is oil rich, and the US warships are now sailing off the ocean near Venezuela, and tensions are mounting between Trump uh, and Maduro, the president of Venezuela. And there are all kinds of accusations. And the Americans, whenever they want to dislodge a president that they don't like because there's something in this country they want to steal or whatever, they accuse the president of being a drug dealer. Never mind that the United States is dealing drugs. I mean, historically, the DEA has been the biggest drug dealer in the region, but they're allowed to do whatever they want to do. And so, but it's important to understand what's happening in Haiti and what's happening against Venezuela in the same context. So now let me share with you a brief excerpt uh, about Erik Prince and um, this is a young Haitian who lives in Australia who did this piece. Let us watch this brief excerpt of about less than 2 minutes.
Look,
As
millions
terrorists.
of people have left Venezuela. I understand why they want to, because they don't want to live under a socialist dictatorship hell. And yes, it's easy for them to mix in lots of truly bad terrorist actors in that deluge of people running from bad governance. Look, all this talk of illegal migration in Europe, in the United States, it ultimately comes down to a contest of what is governance. Who is governed? Which countries are governed well? And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens, because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making the country a better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Erik Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes. Enough. Because if you go to these countries and you see how they suffer under absolutely corrupt, made-up governments that are just criminal syndicates, the people of Africa, the people of Latin America, a lot of them deserve better. Now, some countries are really getting it together. Look at what El Salvador did. Bukele, murder capital of Latin America, he said, no more. Now El Salvador is safer than Prince William County.
And he took
just
all
south
the...
of Washington.
The spokesperson for the white supremacist imperialist made it clear that their plan is to recolonize Africa and Latin America. And so let us move to the next slide, where we make the clear statement with regards to what's happening in Haiti. And we're going to take a look at another video that is newer, that is on Erik Prince's own YouTube channel. Really excerpts. Our goal here is not at all to promote this racist bastard, but it is important for us to analyze his words, because these are not his words. Like I said, I made the parallel with what's happening in Europe. It's a growing thought of criminals who are well aware of their pedigree, being the descendants of Napoleon, Leopold, and all kinds of other criminals. But I say that Erik Prince, Trump recolonization model stands as follows: use the CIA to groom local terrorists, add foreign mercenaries, weapons, drugs, propaganda, and mix. They're uploading it in Haiti, in the Congo, and the plan is to take over the territories that Erik Prince had identified. All right? So they create the problem, which will serve as justification for their invasion. They are getting paid for it, and then they take over. And now, why Haiti? Why Venezuela? Beyond the ideological ramifications, obviously, Venezuela is a country that has adopted socialism since Chavez, and we know that U.S. administrations had attacked Hugo Chavez. But now let's watch this excerpt, this newer excerpt from Erik Prince's own channel, and we will, take a look at select sections of that video. And I really encourage you to, if you have time, to take a look at the whole thing. This first segment we're going to look at is when they're discussing what's happening in Haiti. And I submit to you that throughout the interview, what you will notice is a mix of some truths, usually evident truths, mixed with lies that are cleverly implanted for people to absorb without noticing that they've just been had. So let us listen to a first segment.
It's the only way to describe it is the purge. Here's what's happening, as you know. Armed gangs have attacked airports, police stations, and prisons in Haiti. They've taken control of the country's main port in the capital city of Port-au-Prince. This all happened when the prime minister, who was placed in there by the United States in 2021, Ariel Henry, left the country. He was out on some tour, and the gangs have taken over. This is the purge. The gangs have taken over the country.
Inmates are running the asylum.
And they've cleared thousands from the jail, the prisons. Yep. This is a country of 11 million people. It's been in complete disarray and chaos for decades.
Now, again, a number of things that are evident. He said that the prime minister, the so-called prime minister, was put in place by the United States. That is absolutely true. It's the US government that chose the puppet, and they've been choosing puppets since 2004 after the US, Canada, France invasion of the country. But Erik Prince will not mention that, okay? But he's lying when he says the gangs have taken over, because then you cannot go from one sentence saying that the US is running the place to the point where it's the US that imposed the puppet prime minister, and then in the next sentence you say the gangs have taken over. Well, if they've taken over, that means they've taken over from the US. No. The gangs have not taken over from the US. There's no evidence of that. In fact, what we are witnessing is that the so-called gangs, the local terrorists, are doing exactly what the United States government has been asking them to do. And we will see together how Erik Prince tries to get out of this obvious contradiction. Okay? So now he's going to discuss the fact that one of the most recent puppets was killed, Jovenel Moïse. Let us listen.
Probably. But in terms of this crisis right now that's happening, where the gangs have taken over the country, how did we get here just in recent history the last couple of years?
The previous president, Moïse, was
Jovenel
Moïse.
Yep.
Was in his the presidential palace, and a hit team of some Colombians assaulted the presidential grounds and eventually broke in. Not one competent guard tried to stop them. I mean, one guy standing on the roof because they were trying to cut this big iron fence at the gate. One competent guard that would have dumped a magazine of rifle rounds into the gang would have finished it. But no, they break in, they find the president in his bedchamber, and they kill him ugly. And the wife, they shoot her a couple times and they leave her for dead. She survived.
Who was backing the gang? Like, who prompted the gang to take out Moïse?
One of the drug lords in the country, because Moïse was actually trying to clamp down, to put a proper police program together, trying to do something, and the gangs flexed up and they took him out. And
okay, so now this is a huge lie. Okay. Now, this will only work on folks who are not Haitian, who have not been following this, but it's a clever lie, right? So now he's attributing the assassination of the US puppet president to the gangs, right? First of all, this is the first time that one of them came out and said it this way, okay? because there's no such evidence for anything like that. The guy is just lying. But it doesn't matter to them whether they will be caught in a lie or whatever, because the important thing is to plant seeds. And you will notice a theme that continues throughout this interview. Anybody who is black is incompetent. So the police that did not shoot at the mercenaries is incompetent, right? You know, white people are competent, but black people are incompetent. This is a mercenary talking. Like, it doesn't dawn on him that no, it's not that they were incompetent, that they were part of the plot. And who was running the plot? The government of the United States of America. Okay, all of the evidence 4 years after the murder are pointing to the fact that people who have been accused, judged in the United States, and admitted to participation in the crime, many of them, such as Woodruff Jar, such as Intriago, who is a mercenary from Colombia, from Venezuela, actually, a right-wing Venezuelan who owns the company CTU, are people who are agents whose work either for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration of the United States, or the FBI. The fact that the FBI had been on the crime scene the day of the murder, taking evidence, including the video cameras of the room where the so-called president was murdered. So there is no way. And in fact, you know, people who ask appropriate questions have been saying, you know, how come a Haitian president, a so-called Haitian president, is killed in his room in his own country, and it is the United States that is going inside of Haiti, choosing and picking some of the people accused and taking them to the United States to judge them. And then you have a judge in the United States who put a gag order saying that in order to protect national security in the US, there is some information they don't want to be spoken out. That's an admission of guilt on the part of the US government. And of course, Erik Prince is not going to tell you that, but he attributes the killing of Jovenel Moïse to the gangs, when in fact, the terrorists that they're calling gangs, throughout the period when Jovenel Moïse was president, they were working in tandem. And it's the United States who helped Jovenel Moïse establish the gangs or the terrorists in order so that his unpopular government can stay in power in face of mounting opposition, especially from the grassroots young people who were demanding justice against the corrupt folks who stole the Petro-Caribe Fund, the fund that Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela, helped Haiti access in order to invest in its development. We will mention Venezuela a couple of times because it is central to the story of what's happening in Haiti. And so now let's look at another excerpt of this series of lies from Erik Prince. Now he's going to talk about the motivation of the United States and why he's been hired as a mercenary to go into Port-au-Prince. Let us listen.
And we should care because we don't need 11 million Haitians getting in boats coming to Miami, because literally the country cannot run itself.
Okay, so this is point blank, right? And whether it is Joseph Borrell, Erik Prince, Donald Trump, or the Prime Minister of Canada, it's always the same preoccupation. We don't want black and brown refugees coming to our country, invading our beautiful garden. It doesn't dawn on these ridiculous bastards that if they weren't creating havoc in these people's countries, they wouldn't be leaving El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Mexico, etc., etc. They would be happy to stay in Venezuela, which is a very rich and beautiful country. But white supremacy had never been mature morally or mentally to admit that the image that it sees in the mirror, the ugliness that it sees when looking at the poverty that the impoverished people of the world are facing, that it is its true face. And so it creates a different narrative to give itself a beautiful role in the jungle. And the jungle is the others, the non-whites. And so now let us listen to this bastard some more. And I really ask you to, take as much courage as you can muster, maybe drink something because it doesn't get any better as the lies multiply and the audacity, the cowardice too, okay, increases. Let us listen now how this bastard is going to now try to. You remember I was saying, there's a contradiction here because he's saying that the United States is running Haiti. Haiti is a mess, but he's blaming the Haitians. Well, who's running the place? Is it the Haitians or the Americans? Well, there's a select group of Americans that Erik Prince doesn't have any problem with blaming for what's wrong with Haiti, but it's just not the United States. Okay. And it so happens that the Americans that Erik Prince blames for what's happening in Haiti happen to be black. I don't know why, maybe just a coincidence. Let us listen.
Trying to reestablish law and order. Now, effectively, you have Haiti being run by the U.S. Embassy and by Maine State headquarters, and it's the perfect embodiment of a completely failed, incompetent statecraft.
This is a U.S.-run nation, effectively.
Effectively, because it's constantly in bankruptcy, disaster, and then there's a hurricane or an earthquake, more disaster, more famine, more disease, and it's never, ever, ever been able to run itself. And so it's run by the State Department and run horribly.
Why is it in the U.S. interest for us to block reforms like that? I mean, that's totally nonsensical.
Because we have people in those positions of authority that are not qualified to be making any decisions like that.
Would you include Brian Nichols?
I put him at the top of the list of the problem set here.
Okay, who's Brian Nichols?
Brian Nichols is the Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere, which is everything from basically Mexico south.
Career diplomat?
A career diplomat, a career bureaucrat.
Okay.
And he's moved around South America and apparently leaving a trail of destruction because what a disaster Haiti is.
Now, Brian Nichols is a scumbag, okay? He's a Democrat scumbag, and he happens to be of African descent. But, it's interesting how this guy picks who he is going to identify as the culprit. And anyone who's been following U.S. policy towards Haiti or towards Venezuela know that there has been no change in policy. Whether you go from Democrat to Republican, whether you go to a so-called black president in the White House in Obama, with a vice president who is black like Kamala and Joe Biden, or with Donald Trump, it is the same policy. Keep the black refugees away and put puppets that will help American multinational companies exploit the Haitians who are impoverished for cheap labor and the rest. So you will notice that as Erik Prince and his fellow racists discuss Haiti, they do not mention the people who are the richest on the island and who actually are at the heart of the crime. including and especially the man who for 25 years was the consul general of Israel in Haiti, the chief Jewish leader in Haiti, this white man named Gilbert Bidot. Well, there's good reason for that, because as the Miami Herald told us not so long ago, it is Reuven Bidot, the son of Gilbert Bidot, who has the contact with Erik Prince. And this family of white warlord in Haiti has been inviting mercenaries from Israel and the United States in and out of Haiti for the past few decades whenever they have a set of crimes that they need to commit in order to consolidate their white supremacist power on the island. But Erik Prince doesn't speak about these people. They are not part of the equation. And you will also see why, because, like I said, whatever is happening in immigration in the US today in terms of immigration policy is directly linked to white supremacy, white Christian nationalist ideology. And here again, Erik Prince is talking to us about one of his favorite missionaries in Haiti. Let us take a listen.
Head gang leader, his name is Barbecue. Why? Because his enemies, he barbecues. It is. I had probably the most effective Christian mission organization in the world. The chief operating officer has done a lot of work in Haiti, and he's done work all over the world. He said he has never seen a place so dark, so evil, with such terrible things happening all over the country as Haiti. So this is a complete and total disaster. It requires actual law enforcement. I feel terrible for the poor citizens of Haiti that wake up in that level of despair. They're literally living in garbage and human waste.
And the prison has now been
And now the
emptied
prison
out.
has been emptied,
Right.
with 4,000 even worse people.
Yeah.
And so it's just a complete spiral to the 7 levels of hell.
So now, of course, you will hear the terminology hell. He's talking about missionaries, etc. In reality, this is the same racist ideology that was there during the first U.S. occupation of Haiti in 1915, during the 1994 invasion, and today. That is to dress themselves up as saviors for a crime that they have committed. So, for instance, he's mentioned here Jimmy Cherizier Barbecue. This criminal was funded, created, armed, protected, and is still protected by the US government in Haiti, where there is an interview of a former US ambassador mentioning his conversations with Barbecue. And many times these terrorists have been known to be in conversations with the embassies in Haiti. Yeah, it is hell, and we know who created this hell. And they have the audacity to refer to upright Haitians, people who, like Patrice Lumumba, represented a threat to them in Africa, or Jean-Bertrand Aristide in Haiti. They call them thugs. And this criminal invented a term that I've heard for the first time, a liberation theology thug. This is what he calls President Dr. Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who's returned to Haiti since 2011, built a university, graduating hundreds of professionals every March. These people don't amuse white supremacist idiots like Erik Prince. No, this is uppity niggers, right? Take a look at this map. You see where Haiti is? That's Haiti and Dominican Republic here. The whole island used to be named Haiti by the first people who were there before the European barbarians arrived and murdered 1.5 million Arawak people. And so the founder of Haiti, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, much respect to him forever, renamed the island by the name of the original inhabitants, Haiti, to say that he is going to undo the white supremacist crimes. And so the United States wants to have access to Haiti to build its military base so that they can attack Venezuela and Cuba. That's what it's all about. Okay, all of this crap about bringing democracy, bringing white Jesus, that's all bullshit. Okay, and really, I am really annoyed by especially black people who take patience listening to idiots, talking to them as if they are children, about democracy, brotherhood. We know why you're there. All right, you already have the military might to come and steal our stuff. Now don't insult our intelligence talking bullshit. All right, so yeah, let us listen to Erik Prince interesting analogy here about liberation theology. Yeah.
It was the Duvaliers, Baby Doc Duvalier, and he was being pushed out by another bad idea, Aristide, who was this super leftist Marxist priest.
But he sold himself off as a priest.
Sold himself off as a priest.
Right.
He's a complete liberation theology thug. And so the U.S. invades, Clinton invades, 1994. And I was a young SEAL officer, and we were with a Marine amphibious group, and the job was to do some amphibious reconnaissance as part of the Marine activity there. And so we were going into Cap Haitian, which is up in the north. It's the second largest city.
So now let us go with the final lie. Like I said, you will see that whatever black people are doing, according to Erik Prince, it is corrupt, it is inadequate, but the Tarzans, the whites, do it right. And so now let's hear the question about elections in the year 2000.
By Clinton to secure our embassy, or was it a broader mission than that?
It was to change the regime from
was
one
to change
corrupt
the
regime to another corrupt regime.
And what was the at that moment? What was Duvalier's status and Aristide's status? Was there an election?
They hadn't had any real elections in the countries. I mean, everything is a joke.
Right.
The country would be better off being run by the United Fruit Company or Dole Pineapple. It's sad. I feel terrible for the people there.
Yeah, you feel very terrible. That's a complete lie. Not only was there an election in the year 2000 to bring President Jean-Bertrand Aristide to power, that election was by far superior, much more democratic than the joke, the actual joke that they had in the United States, particularly in Florida, where it is Jeb Bush, the brother to Bush the Lesser, George Bush the Lesser, the son of the other, who was director of the CIA, who rigged the elections. You remember the Chad? You guys remember that? That's the election that brought George Bush to power in 2000. Meanwhile, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who was elected for the second time by the people of Haiti, won an election where nobody was surprised, because clearly the next opportunity that Black Haitians had to choose the leader of their choosing, it was clear Jean-Bertrand Aristide would be it, because he was denied the first time by a US coup. And 3 years of his 5-year mandate were stolen. And of course, for that second administration of Aristide, the United States vowed to overthrow him as soon as possible. Of course, Erik Prince will have you believe that Black Haitians never did anything right, but white invaders are trying their best, but somehow these backwards people cannot get it right. This is the creed of white supremacist idiots. and it's been like that for a longer of time. Anyways, like I said, Erik Prince Trump recolonization model is to use the CIA to groom local terrorists, right? Add foreign mercenaries, weapons, drugs, propaganda, and mix. And they are uploading it in Haiti. You can check out the full interview yourself. Take with lots of salt. Yeah, the people are not just watching this passively. There's resistance inside of Haiti, just as there is resistance in Venezuela. And, we say to the people of Venezuela, hold on, because we know exactly why they are attacking Venezuela. I've had the privilege of going to Venezuela a couple of times. Beyond what I had seen before from the media, the fact that the one Guaido group that the government of Canada, the United States, the Europeans are supporting is a racist bastard. And one of the incidents that brought this clear to us is the burning alive of Jose Figueroa, a black Venezuelan who supported Hugo Chavez, who was burned alive by the supporters of Guaido in 2017. Go check it out on YouTube and you will see. Jose Figueroa. And it's not a coincidence that the racist, groups are the ones that are allied to them in Ukraine, in Venezuela, in Haiti. And you will see again who Erik Prince is allied to in Haiti. Yes, there are white warlords in Haiti. Some of them are billionaires like Gilbert Bidot. Others are millionaires, and they're all white, and they are connected with both branches of the racist US government. And so let us read the statement from Solidarité Québec-Haiti, the organization with which we've been trying to make a difference in the information war here about what's happening in our native country. August 27, 2025, press release for immediate release. Ottawa, Solidarité Québec-Haiti reminds everyone that the sovereign rights of the rightful heirs of Dessalines on the island of Haiti are not negotiable. Every day, sons and daughters of Haiti are forced to flee for their lives. It is reported that currently, more than 1.3 million people are displaced by violence, the highest number recorded in Haiti's history, according to a recent United Nations report. Darlene Lozis, member of SQH, declared, "If today there is no legitimate authority left at the helm in Haiti, while terrorists live off the people's blood, it is not a curse that has fallen upon us. Bloodthirsty terrorists, corrupt politicians, and a network of economic mafias in cahoots with a foreign military occupation have thoroughly destroyed the state." End of quote. For her part, Comrade Jenny Law Sully recalled, "The source of this endless calamity is a catastrophic military invasion led by the United States, France, and Canada on February 29, 2004. This horrendous multinational crime is consolidated by 21 years of ongoing UN-blessed foreign occupation of Haiti." End of quote. In truth, All of us, members of SQH, are appalled by the audacity of mischievous criminals at the national and international levels who continue to offer the Haitian people more poison, supposedly to cure a plague they themselves have created. Exactly who is the Mark Carney government helping while Canada is sitting on a pile of documents, including evidence it has collected about alleged powerful criminals of all stripes? Asked Comrade Franz André. Indeed, a host of Haitian nationals, including politicians, businessmen, and gang leaders, stand accused by the Canadian government of fueling the terrorist network called Vive Ensemble. Among them, Michel Martelly, former president, puppet president established by Hillary Clinton. Gilbert Bijo, this white man here who was consul general of Israel for 25 years in Haiti, who lives in Miami, neighbor to Donald Trump. Reynold Dib, Izo or Johnson André, Dimitri Hérard, Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, Vitellum Innocent, André Saliba Aped, and many more. Comrade Franz André requests that the judicial system of Canada, Haiti, and international justice mobilize appropriately so that society can use this evidence against the criminals and in favor of the victims. End of quote. Comrade Turenne Joseph added, it is high time for all assets associated with terrorist networks be nationalized, becoming dominion of the Haitian state. End of quote. Meanwhile, SQH says, down with all forms of imperialism, including when clever smiling hypocrites are among the culprits. SQH reminds everyone the following core principles are absolutely non negotiable. One, the Haitian people demand that all foreign vultures be evicted, thrown out of Haiti's affairs. Let the Haitians breathe. Only we, Haitians, have the right to choose legitimate leaders for our country, and this must be done peacefully. We will not tolerate any puppets, traitors, or fifth columns imposed by others, regardless of their skin color. 3. Whether it is criminals associated with the United Nations, the OAS, black skin, white mask mercenaries from Kenya or other territories, racist white mercenaries who signed illegal contracts with foreign imposed illegal rulers of Haiti, Institut Makaya. Yeah, you see these bastards there, all of these white looking criminals in Haiti who participated in the coup in 2004. Well, their sons are now part of something called Institut Makaya, and they sat with the OAS and they're developing their own plan to impose a Rhodesia like white minority rule in Haiti. Erik Prince or other associated criminals, the Haitian people throw all of these evil projects deep into the nearest latrine. 4. Everyone, including the government of Canada, must refrain from neocolonial projects, racist conspiracies that are being hatched against the Haitian people. precisely the Black Haitian people. Finally, all of us, members and supporters of Solidarité Québec-Haiti, continue to demand that Canada removes itself from the imperialist club called the Core Group. Canada must support a global and effective embargo on US weapons that fuel terror throughout the Caribbean, especially in Haiti. Canada must adopt a courageous foreign policy that is independent of the United States, and above all, that respects Haiti's sovereignty. We could add Burkina Faso's sovereignty, Mali's sovereignty, Niger's sovereignty, Venezuela's sovereignty, the Palestinian people's sovereignty. We demand restitution and reparations from the governments of all core group countries, the United Nations, and the OAS for multiple crimes they've committed against the Haitian people. For Solidarité Québec-Haiti, the contact person is Jean Saint-Ville or J'Afrique Haiti, your presenter, and this is the phone number to verify. We use this picture to illustrate what we are talking about when we mention the dignity of the impoverished people of Haiti. We understand that in our current world, there are people who don't have enough good sense to see beyond the filth that surrounds this elegant, black, beautiful woman carrying her boy, dressed as best as she could afford. But we, people who see humans with eyes of normal human beings, recognize her dignity. And so we call for global resistance to white supremacist imperialist warlords like Erik Prince, who are attempting to deprive this sister and her young boy of their hard fought and earned dignity. And so this is what I had to share with you, brothers and sisters. There are many references that you can check out. We probably do not have time to take a call today, but for those of you who are on TikTok, maybe we could work something out. This picture of Sister Maxine Waters is quite important for us to notice, because it reminds us that although Erik Prince is right that, you know, there are some very incompetent black people who have served the imperialist government of the United States, such as Brian Nichols and other thugs like Michael Langley, who threatened the president of Burkina Faso because he was ordered by his white masters to do so. We also have men and women of character who have served in the same US government. Just like we know they are black, like this beautiful sister, Maxine Waters, we know also that there must be a few white ones also. I don't know that I have seen any recently, but there must be some. Okay? And so what we are calling for is human brotherhood, because if we allow them to take over Haiti and establish a Rhodesia type of colony there with, you know, white supremacist powers, and, you know, in that video, Erik Prince does the usual thing, you know, contrasting, you know, Dominican Republic that is being run more or less progressively compared to Black Haiti. And of course, the bastard skips over all of the history of white supremacist attacks on the Africans of Haiti, and how, in fact, today, Black Dominicans are dying. Okay? They are fleeing their island for the same reasons that Black Haitians are fleeing the island. And the land is being taken over by the white supremacist bastards. We are not fooled. You have the power of violence with you, just like your ancestors had for a number of years until the Haitian Revolution set the record straight and fixed things up. It will happen again. It's not a warning, it's a promise. All the best.
Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.